Spotlight is a production of CTNY, the Catholic Television Network of Youngstown. It seeks to spotlight people, places, and events from around the Diocese of Youngstown that promote the new gospel of joy called for by Pope Francis. Your program host is Father James Corda.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Spotlight. I'm Father Jim Corda. Today we're going to talk about the Loyola Retreat House. And joining me is Abbot Clement Zeleznik and Timothy Beringer. And it's a pleasure to have you both on the show today.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
It might be good for the folks that are with us to get kind of a flavor for the Retreat House. We know that this year is a significant year celebrating 50 years. And so you have a rich history to share with us. So why don't we begin by giving the folks watching a little background of the Retreat House, how it started, what was its purpose, and what we're doing today.
Wonderful. Abbot, would you like me to...
The Retreat House in Cleveland, the Jesuits decided that they ought to expand, and so they made a project to come in this area, in the Clinton area, and they observed quite a number of areas, and then they finally settled on this place. And so I was in 1965.
1965,
that
yes.
actually was begun and started.
And so what was the main thrust for Loyola Retreat House? Was it primarily just retreats back then? Is that how it all started?
Correct. The laity in the Akron area determined that it would behoove them to have a retreat house to cover the Akron-Canton area, because there were two retreat houses at the time in Cleveland, and it was basically a weekend retreat for adults as it started, and then it evolved into a lot of other activities which are still ongoing at the retreat center.
Let's talk about some of the work that you do there as an abbot, as spiritual director. What would basically be your role in your ministry there at the house?
I do a lot of spiritual direction, and I do some group retreats. I also do private retreats, and I make myself available in the area if parishes want talks and this kind of stuff.
Now, Tim,
and I'm also doing a healing ministry.
Tell us about that.
Okay. If parish invites us to do the healing ministry, then usually I say the Mass, preach, and then I expose the Blessed Sacrament. And in the Benedictine tradition for healing, we have what's called St. Maur's blessing. It goes all the way back to this time of St. Benedict, in which the Benedictines pray over people with the relic of the true cross. And then after I pray that and another prayer, then I take the Blessed Sacrament in the major sections of the church and hold it up before the people for roughly a slow Hail Mary. Because in Lourdes, that's usually when the healing takes place, when the Blessed Sacrament is going through the crowds. Then after that's done, I put it back on the altar, and then individual priests pray over everybody. So I've been at least 8 places. The next one is St. Bernard's in Akron.
Okay, very good. Now, when you talk about a healing ministry, in our world and in our church today, it seems to be that those things would be pretty not only necessary but popular. That you would get a number of people who would want to be involved in that. Is that true? That's
very true. It's very interesting. Of course, there are people who think that this is only for charismatic people. It has nothing to do with charisma. It's the insight that the Lord has really given the power to heal to the church. It's about time we really allow it to happen.
Sure. Tim, you've been involved with the Retreat House for a long time. I believe you're the chairman of the board of directors.
Right.
Tell us how that whole operation works and how it's kind of driven.
Well, a number of our board members, like myself, serve on other boards, mainly within the Catholic community of the Cleveland Diocese as well as the Akron area. And I was initially familiar with the retreat house by being a retreatant, weekend retreat. Our parish in Akron, St. Sebastian, has men's as well as women retreats at Loyola. And when I was there for a retreat, one of the individuals that greeted us was a board member. And as will happen, those that volunteer will be volunteered. And so I was pulled into the board, and that was 16 to 17 years ago, and then 13 years ago I took over as president of the board. And we have a very active working board. We interact with Abbot Clement. Abbot Clement celebrates Mass for us when we have our board meetings, and we have individuals that do work on the grounds as well as hospitality and maintenance that are board members, but it cuts the cost down when we have people that can do those types of duties.
And I think I wanted to ask that, do you have many volunteers out there? Or do you have, and tell us a little bit about the paid staff that is there too, because we spoke with Elizabeth a while ago on our wineskins program, and we know that she's very intimately involved there and has been for a number of years. So tell us a little bit about the support staff there as well.
Mm-hmm. Elizabeth, and of course we refer to her as Becky, is the executive director, and she's been there 28 years. And in any organization, there's always the engine that drives the train, and she's the engine. And she's a well-oiled engine. She knows the inner workings of that place better than anybody. Mm-hmm. And then we also have an office manager, Christine Urie. Sarah works in the office. We have a housekeeping staff. We have 55 beds, a number of rooms on the two wings, so we have housekeeping as well as 2 full-time maintenance people. But as I said, a lot of the board people put work in as from a volunteer standpoint.
Sure. We're down to about 2 minutes of our end of our first segment. Tell us a little bit about some of the people that come to the retreat house. Are they people of all ages, all walks of life? Tell us.
Well, the local parishes and the local schools come for retreats. Most lay people come for weekends on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Mm-hmm. The schools, of course, they'll come during the whole week. We have a lot of high schools come. And then we have also some, like right now, there are priests at a retreat. The Ukrainian priests are here. They come about every year. And then also the priests from Steubenville come. And sometimes we have other groups like the neo-catechumenate people come. And we have also non-Catholics who just want some quiet peace and discuss their faith.
We're going to talk a little bit more about those specifics, but we're going to take a quick break.
Great.
So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
I spent 34 years as a teacher.
For the first 10 minutes of teaching, I was terrified, and then I fell in love with it.
I am so grateful that teaching was my ministry. It was such a gift.
Many sisters, brothers, and religious order priests served for little pay.
One year, I had a classroom of 68 children.
I was chaplain for the ice hockey team and loved it, even the 6:30 a.m. practices.
Today, hundreds of religious communities lack retirement funds.
I loved helping the kids stage musicals.
Gifts to the Retirement Fund for Religious help provide for medications, nursing care, and more.
Back then, we didn't earn much, but seeing a child learn was really priceless.
Please give to those who have given a lifetime. Donate at your local parish.
Thank you, and God bless you.
I am Marino.
Yo soy Marino.
Marino, an American Catholic organization of priests and brothers, has been reaching out to those in need for nearly 100 years in 26 countries throughout the world. missioners, workers, volunteers, supporters. We are all Maryknoll.
I'm Father Mike, and I am Maryknoll.
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 Welcome back to our show. We're talking about the Loyola Retreat House, and with me is Timothy Beringer and Abbot Clement Zeleznik. And before we took a break, we were talking about some of the people that come to the retreat house. And during the break, I mentioned it's nice that it's not just for Catholics, but you open it up to a lot of people. Tell us about some of those programs.
Well, as I was saying before, we have groups such as the Judges and Lawyers Retreat, and they deal with a lot of issues, religious and non-religious. We have senior retreats of non-Catholic groups. We had a group of women from a Baptist church not too long ago, and they were just some of the most energetic, charismatic people that I've ever met. One of the things we do there is we make sure that one of our board members is there to greet any retreat that's coming in. But I would say that probably 85 to 90% of our activity is Catholic oriented, but we do have a number of other groups that are there. As Abbot said,
sometimes the staffs of non-Catholic communities come just to be together and talk things out and clear things up. They do a good job.
Good. The folks that are with us may want to get in touch with you. So what would be the phone number or internet address that they can do to get in touch? We'll mention that now, and we'll mention that also towards the end of the show.
Sure. The actual direct dial number is 330-896-2315. And we also have an internet address. Of course, I've got to admit that I'm retired and I'm not exactly...
I've got it right here, Tim. I could mention it. It's www.loyolaretreathouse.com.
Perfect.
Very simple. And so we certainly encourage the folks that are with us to contact you either through the phone or through the internet. Tell us a little bit about some of the celebrations that you're going to have during this year of your 50th anniversary. Anything in particular that stands out that you're going to have?
Our first one was we made wine. That's to remind us of our effort and survival. But it was very good, very good start.
Okay.
We hope to have something at in the September.
Okay.
Yeah, we're having a Mass will be celebrated. There are two parishes that join up to our property. We have 72 acres in Clinton, but in the community of Green we have Queen of Heaven, and then we have St. Francis de Sales, and so we're going to have Masses celebrated for those parishes at the retreat house. We're going to have a special Rosary procession that we're going to celebrate, and several just social functions that are going to be worked into the schedule as well.
One thing I'd like to ask Abbot about is, obviously as a religious person, you have a charism that you follow. How is the charism that you celebrate involved and intimately interwoven with what you do at the retreat house?
Well, I was a novice master for 20 years, so I've gone through the rule with quite a number of times, and of course I utilize the spirituality of the rule in both in the spiritual direction and in the retreats, and of course it makes for clarity and for steps for people to eventually enter a deeper spiritual life. So it's interesting in the sense that the first thing that I have to deal with, which sounds maybe odd to people, but just to get people to pray regularly, That's the first step. If that's not there, I can't do anything.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that because in this kind of complex and complexing world, some of the things that we need to do, we don't always do. And as Christian people, one of the things that we're encouraged to do, obviously, is to have a significant prayer life. And I know that the Loyola Retreat House assists in that, but how important is it for us individually to have that prayer life? And I know as a board member, what would you tell the folks that are with us about how personally that is with you and what you share with others who come to the retreat house?
Well, prayer is something that I think, as Abbot said, there are those that just don't pray on an ongoing basis. And I have never entered the retreat house where I haven't felt the inclination to be able to pray silently and reverently, and not only in our chapel, but just walking the grounds. You know, we have the Stations of the Cross on the grounds, we have the grotto, and it's very easy. Even in the wintertime, I've been out there and been able to walk the grounds and be able to find myself silently reflecting and praying, which in our busy type of world, I was in business for myself before I retired, and you know, you've got to take the time to do so. And I have found that the retreat house has helped me.
For me, though, it's more because of Benedictine tradition of liturgy and Lectio Divina, it's very important for me to present the impact of the liturgy in people's life. You know, for instance, the Easter season starts with the resurrection, but its fullness really doesn't happen till Pentecost. And a lot of people are not aware of that, so that they think, well, once I celebrate the resurrection, that's it. But it's not so. It continues to unfold in a deeper, richer, fuller way, and its fullness is really the gift of the Spirit. And so that influences the way I guide them and direct them.
And I would imagine that those who participate at the retreat house, they're encouraged to go back to whether it's their parish or their home or community, to live a more full life in the Lord, and also in the church. We're going to talk a little bit more in our final segment about some of those specifics, but we're going to take a quick break. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
There is a place where a total stranger will give you their blood. There is a place where someone you never knew will save your child from drowning. A place where people from 7 states away will turn up at your door and give you food and shelter after a flood. There's a place where a person who doesn't look like you, talk like you, or dress like you will stretch out their hand and put it across your shoulders and say, everything is going to be okay. That place is called America, where we look out for each other, and it's up to us to keep it that way. When you help the American Red Cross, you help America.
We are in our 7th year at Cristo Rey Jesuit High School. It arose from the desire of the Jesuits in the Chicago province to serve the Hispanic community here in Chicago. One of the things that's unique about this school is that our kids work 5 days a month at offices in downtown Chicago to pay for their education. That idea originated here. We got telephone calls the first day from the companies thanking us for sending us those kids to their companies. The companies feel good about themselves. 95% of our kids are the first ones in their families to finish high school, and 87% of our graduates are in college right now. This project attracts wonderful, wonderful, enthusiastic, idealistic people. They have to have the desire to kind of reach for the stars. No one believed that it would be as successful as it is. Well, it's obviously caught on, and we're very, very excited about it.
Welcome back to Spotlight. We're talking about the Loyola Retreat House. Before we took a break, we were talking about the retreat house providing people that come with really the fullness of the truth, I guess you would say that, and in a spirit of St. Benedict. Let's briefly mention what the mission statement is, because that basically is what drives all of you and really directs the retreat house.
Sure.
Tim?
Yes, our mission statement is that Loyola Retreat House shall help people grow spiritually through the loving guidance of God, the redeeming love of Jesus, and the presence of the Holy Spirit in his or her life. And it's pretty simple, but it's pretty encompassing as well.
The one thing that I'd like to mention, and for the folks that are with us, is that you mentioned the number of acres that are there and the facilities. What can they expect when they come? What would they see, and what would they get involved with facility-wise?
Well, they certainly like the property, and especially if the weather's nice, they take walks, and in fact, they can even get to some lakes without any trouble. And so that encourages them. And I would also say it's a very nice, quiet place to really reflect on their lives.
You know, it's interesting because that phrase, come to the quiet, is really what directs you. I remember when Becky was here with Bob Andrea, we talked about that, and that was come away to the quiet is kind of your mantra.
Right.
And how important in our kind of busy, loud world it is to get back to that. And I go back to the monastic way of life with St. Benedict. How important is that sense of quiet and silence in all that you do there?
We have to learn to be people who can enjoy our solitude as well as be people of community. And those have to be alive in our life, because if they're not, we're not whole.
Tim, in your long tenure with the folks at Loyola Retreat House, what is one of the greatest things that you've experienced over those many years? And after that, what are your hopes for the retreat house?
Well, as far as experiences, I think the feeling of volunteerism is just amazing. We have neighbors. We have a farm. The Hartong family has a beautiful dairy farm adjacent to our property that sometimes when we have high school Kairos retreats, they'll set it up and the kids can go get a chance to see these cows up close and personal. But the property is surrounded by a number of different families, and they're all involved in the retreat house one way or another. And with that in mind, I see the retreat house as going forward. I mean, we're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and I feel that it's going to go forward, continue to be strong and grow in that way. And we have a lot of long-standing support with a lot of people, and I just feel that the future is very bright for the Loyola Retreat Center.
And from my point of view, I'm always trying to look for creative topics that meet people's needs. Like I have a retreat on Divine Mercy, which I gave to the aspirants to the diaconate in the Cleveland Diocese, about 20 people. And then I had it with adults, and both of them really blossomed into the mystery of God's mercy. It was very, very good. So good that I decided to do it again.
Well, you know, in this year of mercy that Pope Francis has designated, how appropriate is that?
Oh, it's very appropriate. But it's also needed.
Exactly.
Because when I first came there, I gave a retreat to men, and I was surprised how many still saw Jesus as a judge. They still haven't discovered how much God loves them. Then I have another one I'm planning to start. Is called Catching on Fire, because I want people. It's not enough to be good. You got to be enthusiastic. God is a passionate, loving God, and so they have to come in touch with the Spirit.
What I'd like to mention, and we talked about this prior to our tapings, is that you spent a number of years as a classroom teacher, physics teacher, I believe you said. How is that different from what you're doing now? Not that you compare, but what do you find most fulfilling now?
Well, I was novice master for 20 years, so even though I was teaching in high school, I would say that was the focus of my life, but physics was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it tremendously. I was well trained. In fact, one day I came to class and on my desk was a statue of Muhammad Ali with his finger up, and there was a note on it that said, "I'm the greatest." I was known as Mr. Physics. And I thought, I laughed to myself, it's time to bring God into my physics lab. But the training that I have for formation is so rich and deep that it just carries me right into, I'm at the right place at the right time doing the right things.
Well, I'm sure that the community welcomes your presence there. And, you know, in this day and age where we unfortunately have fewer priests, fewer religious, it's always a welcome thing to have the presence of religious, whether it's in a retreat setting, whether it's in a classroom, a high school, especially in parishes, how important that is. And we tend to sometimes shy away from the need for that, but we do need the religious presence there among us.
Certainly do. Absolutely.
We'd like to give the folks who are with us the phone number again. Tim, if you could do that.
Sure. It's 330-896-2315.
And I'm going to give the website again. It's www.loyolaretreathouse.com. As you do embark on this celebration of 50 years, what would you like to leave the folks that are with us with about?
Come and see and experience a deepening of your life.
And Timothy?
I would just echo that. I know that there are a number of the monks from St. Benedict's Abbey in Cleveland who come to the retreat house, and honestly, they do enjoy coming away to the quiet. It's a beautiful, quiet place to be able to reflect and feel at ease.
Well, we certainly of CTNY want to support you and thank you for the work that you do at the Loyola Retreat House. It's a nice, long, rich history. We thank you for the work that you do on the board, also as a volunteer. Thank you as your spiritual presence there. I'm sure it's very welcome and very appreciated. And the folks that are with us, please contact you. Go to the website or give a call. I'm sure that they will be enlightened and inspired, and also celebrate that quiet and that peacefulness that you provide through the center. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you,
Father. We appreciate it.
And thank you for being with us. Have a good day, and God be with you.
Spotlight has been a production of CTNY, the Catholic Television Network of Youngstown. Your program host was Father James Corda.
Assistant to a professor at Harvard. They met. My father worked for Harvard, and my mother worked for Harvard. They met there, and then my father got a job to build a